This episode of the Golf Gambling Podcast from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code GOLF SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing CFB and NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And thank you again for always tuning in to the Golf Gambling Podcast. If you head over to Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Only you can prevent corporate gambling from taking over, and let the little guys like us just rise to the top and be great and continue to be great. But we're back. Another episode of the DFS picks. We have the ZOZO Championship over in Japan. Tees off in about 24 hours. So got a ton of content to get to tonight and tomorrow morning before we tee it off. Got to get these picks out. Got to get this day rolling. But I was in Vegas this past weekend. I made it out to half a day of the Shriners, saw a little bit of the golf, but the wind was really windy was an understatement. I'm not sure what it looked like on TV on the windy day, but it was so comically windy out there that there was truly no way they could have played golf when they did delay the golf. I saw some people complaining on Twitter, and I probably would have complained too if I wasn't actually out there watching the golf, but it was so windy. So they got whatever happened. They got the golf done, and Doug Gim almost got it done for us. We had him at 55-1 or 45-1, and he was a nice DFS play for us. But cash your lineup, but couldn't get that outright across the board. I know this is a DFS show, but wanted to just talk about that Doug Gim. But I'm not mad. Sometimes if I have an outright that loses, I'll be upset, but Doug Gim showed a lot of heart. He really fought to the finish line. He was playing out of the bad wave, so maybe that's a win. There was a shot and a half difference in the good wave versus the bad wave, or maybe even more than a shot. Maybe it was closer to 3 shots. I might have saw. So if you had Doug Gim last week, that might count as an outright win. You can victory lap that. You can post that on Twitter as an outright win, because I'm going to do that. So shout out Doug Gim, got us that win last week. But actually, what a week from Posty. When he gets hot, he just gets hot. There's no telling when it's going to happen. I think that was his first start of 2024, and he just came out of nowhere and just was Posty. He just hits those fairways, hits them to 15 to 20 feet and makes a ton of putts. So shout out Posty backers. You got one. Let's talk about the ZOZO. I'm going to bring up the DFS board. Is it shared? Not yet. So let me really quickly get that DFS board up, and we're going to go through the DFS board for this week's golf tournament. Here we go. Xander Schauffele leads the way at $11,500. Colin Morikawa 10.5. Decky and Sahith are the guys over 10K. Definitely some questions to be made. Who are you going to go with, Xander or Colin? It seems like they're both going to be close to 30% owned, which isn't that crazy for a shorter field, and a lot of the field, a shorter field plus a few random Japanese tour players who don't really have a chance to contend. Maybe one of them will crack the top 10, but you got to really nail that right. So with Xander or Colin, you're picking between threads of hair. So it's going to be a tough one. I personally think I want to go with Colin. He might be a little bit more owned, but you get that extra $1,000 of ownership. And what he's been doing, even though it hasn't been much, it's been solid. He's finished top 10 here multiple times. Obviously has won here before. And you think of a golf course for Colin, hit fairways and be really, really solid with your middle irons. It's not a surprise that he won here, and he won here in dominant fashion. So I never like to back defending champions, but Colin will finish inside this top 5. I really do think he will play well, even though he hasn't played in a while. His last start was the Tour Championship and obviously the President's Cup, but he looked really solid at the President's Cup. Whereas Xander, same thing. He also played well at the Tour Championship, and he had a great season. But I just think we don't know out of those two. So why not go with the guy who's $1,000 cheaper? Because we just don't know, and they're so different. One has better course history than the other. So I'm going to go with Colin up top. That leaves you Decky and Sahith. They're both going to be around 20%. I think if you want to pick one, the answer is Decky. I just really don't trust Sahith to keep it in the fairway for 72 holes on a golf course that's not very narrow, but there's a lot of trouble, both off the tee and both into the greens. And I just don't trust Sahith to be that guy to do it over 72 holes. If you look at his last 2 tournaments, it was the Tour Championship, which I think was a one-off really good week, because leading up to that Tour Championship week, the form was not that great. And then it was the Pro Tour. So you look at 2 really solid golf results for Sahith, and you're gonna be like, why wouldn't I play him at $10,000? I think he's gonna be popular too. But I'm going to say, I do think that Tour Championship week was a one-off successful week because it wasn't leading into good form. And the Pro Tour was an amazing, perfect golf course for him and situation for him. So I think you want to fade Sahith. I truthfully do. If you want to go to Decky, that's fine. But I think I'm just going to stay with Colin up here and try to build with him. There's a world where you could fit two of these guys in here, but my number one guy in this 10K range is Colin Morikawa. That brings us to the 9K range, and we have golfers like Sungjae M leading us off, Justin Thomas, Minwoo Lee, Kurt Kitayama, Siwoo Kim, and Will Zalatoris. I guess we'll start from the bottom. Will Zalatoris is going to be the cheapest guy. I'm not sorry, not cheapest. Obviously, he's going to be the cheapest if he's at the bottom of the range. He's going to be the least owned guy in this range, in my opinion. That's because of his price, the golfers he's around, and his recent form. We haven't seen Willie Z play since the BMW and the FedEx St. Jude and the Wyndham. So that was a lot of time. And his course history here is nothing crazy. He's got like a T50 or something along those lines. But it hasn't been great for Will Zalatoris. But I do really think this is a great launching pad for Willie, because if you look at his stats, he's gained strokes on approach in every single start since the Genesis Scottish Open. And you know anything about Zalatoris, when he's a ball striker, he needs to be hitting those irons well, and he showed that. And he's had a ton of time to take off, heal up if he's needed to, but more than likely just prepare for the incoming season. So I love Willie Z at 9K, 8 to 10% ownership. I think he could be one of those nuts guys who gets you across the line. So we'll go all the way back up to the top. Sungjae M, decent results, decent finishes. He played at the Tour Championship, played at the President's Cup, was asked to be a leader of that President's Cup team, and he played all right. I really don't mind Sungjae. Justin Thomas at 9.5. It's a good price, but he's a golfer who he's going to be +2 through 7, and you're going to be like, why did I click Justin Thomas? Why did I do this to myself again? Minwoo Lee, he's got decent course history. He's finished 6th here before. I think that was last year, and he is coming in off of not too much golf because no one has, but he played at the Pro Tour and he played at the St. Jude. He striped it off the tee. He striped it on approach at the Pro Tour. But again, that's a course that I think made a lot of sense for him opposed to here. Now, I do think the driver that he brings to the table can separate him tremendously. Like, I think he'll have a ton more wedges and short irons than the rest of the field. But again, I just don't think he's like a good enough golfer on approach to really set himself up for success. And I will say this field is so weak, and he's a decent price. So that could be a way to get onto Minwoo, but I don't think he's like a lineup lock every single lineup. I do think you should spread him, sprinkle him a little bit. He's going to be around 10 to 14% ownership, and that's fine in this field, this short field. So that's Minwoo Lee. Kurt Kitayama, 9.2, is putting on an absolute display of ball striking. And I absolutely love this setup far more than I liked the last 2 weeks for Kurt Kitayama. And that's just because I don't see a world in which Kurt Kitayama needs to make a ton of putts. We saw him miss so many putts the last 2 weeks. And like, I don't want Kurt Kitayama in a birdie fest. I want him in a -14 to -16 event, which is what we're going to get here. At least that's what we've seen the last few years here. And the golf course makes sense. If Kurt Kitayama is hitting fairways, he's long and straight off the tee. And then what he's doing on approach is absurd. I want to get you the exact number. I think it's somewhere around 16 strokes on approach the last 2 weeks. It is, over just under 17 strokes on approach to the field in 2 weeks of golf. I don't care if you're like new to this golf gambling, new to the strokes gained. That is absurd stuff. Kurt Kitayama is absolutely striping the golf ball, and I expect that to continue on a golf course that makes sense for him. Siwoo Kim at 9.1, no real feelings for him. I think he could finish top 10. I think he could play horrible. We haven't seen him since Wentworth, where he hit the ball really well. And the PGA Tour, BMW Castle Pines. So I'm not really too bullish on Siwoo, but I'm not really like, I don't think we should fade him. I think you should make up your own decision with Siwoo. I do not mind him. So 8K range. Before we get to the 8K range, really quickly, I want to talk to you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has some of the best menus for all sports: NFL, CFB, MLB, MMA, NASCAR, more. Boosttober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boots and much more. Shout out Underdog Fantasy for that ad read. And we'll be tipping off NBA very soon. Every NBA pick'em entry from 10-9 through 10-27 will be boosted. You can use specials and boost on all flex entries, so stay tuned. I will be sharing my Underdog picks for the golf week. So sign up with code GOLF SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to 1K in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code GOLF SGPN. And finally, BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best business in sports for the last 30 years. Easily deposit money using crypto and get lightning fast payouts. US players are always welcome. Sign up and deposit $100, and you have a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Bet you didn't say that. So a bet I'm liking on BetUS this week might have to be Colin Morikawa top 10 minus 140. So use our link and get up to a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN, so they know we sent you. Okay, 7K range. Let's get to the 7K range. Let me scroll down a little bit. We have 8K range. We have Bo Hostler 8-9 down to P Raj at 8K. P Raj is. I want to talk about P Raj real quick because I believe he missed the cut in a field in a situation in which he had missed the cut recently. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, I believe. Let me pull up P. Rogers' profile because he's just a hilarious golfer, man. Yeah, he missed the cut at the Sanderson Farm, played all right at the Black D, but he's lost strokes ball striking now. In 2 straight weeks, I don't know if I could do it. I really don't. He finished T16 here in 1 trip, but I'd like some other guys in this 8K range. Golfers like Seamus Power, JJ Spawn, and even Doug Gim. So let's talk about Seamus Power for a little bit. Seamus Power is a golfer who usually hits a ton of fairways, and he's been striping the ball on approach. He's gained on approach in 4 of his last 5 starts. He had not played this golf course before, but I like the fact that it's a golf course that requires you to hit fairways, and you don't have to be overly long. So Seamus fits that bill tremendously. Doug Gim, our guy. I don't think it'd be a bad idea to go back to him because this is a golfer who gains like 3 to 7 on ball striking every single week. He hasn't lost ball striking. Doug Gim has not lost strokes ball striking since the Houston Open in March. That is a long time. That is a long time. So you're getting a very consistent ball striker on a golf course that should make sense for him. Doesn't have much course history. So I don't think it's a bad thing that he finished like T60 a few years ago. Top of this 8K range, Matt McNeely, Bo Hostler, Max Grazerman. I just think you can skip those guys and get a lot of a better chance down low. Like I said, Doug Gim, Seamus Power, and Tom Hoge. Tom Hoge is definitely very, very interesting. I don't love what he's been doing with the ball striking. And if you're telling me Tom Hoge's not hitting the ball well, he's got a right course history. He always plays here, which is kind of a good thing. But I can't trust a Tom Hoge who's not hitting the ball well. I'd much prefer to go to a golfer like JJ Spawn, who's just $100 cheaper, and he's been so consistent on approach. He's lost strokes on approach 1 time since the Valspar Championship in March as well. And that one time he lost was to Sanderson a few weeks ago, in which he withdrew. So I like those guys down at this 8K range. I'm not doing the Max Homa thing. I've been on the Max Homa thing a few times before. I'd much prefer a golfer like Seamus Power, who's $100 cheaper, JJ Spawn, or Doug Gim. That's the 8K range. 7K range, Andrew Putnam 7-9 all the way down to Kensai Hitara at 7K and Charlie Hoffman and Brendan Todd, at 7K. So there's a few golfers that I want to get to in the 7K range. Has my screen been on the 9K range all the time? Sorry, I kind of just ran through it. But all right, top of this 7K range, Andy Putz 7-9. I'm seeing Gary Woodland's being a little bit popular this week, and I'm not sure I love that. Let's deep dive Gary Woodland for a second to really get like a good sense of why we're doing it. It could be the driver. It could be that he's just going to hit every single damn fairway. He's gained strokes off the tee in now 5 straight events, and he gained 5 on approach in his last start. But I will say that Gary Woodland gained strokes putting last week, which is not something he does very often. You combine that with his 5th place here, and it does make sense why he is popular. But I'd prefer to not go to a popular Gary Woodland. When's the last time that has worked? And the same thing for Ricky Fowler. I really do expect Ricky Fowler to be popular because he popped up a little bit at the Shriners Open. He had a few good rounds. It didn't have the best result, but a few good rounds. And he looked all right in the week before that too. But I don't know why you'd want to go to a popular Woodland or a popular Fowler. It just really hasn't worked over the last few years. I think a golfer like Rico Hori, Chan Kim in the middle of the 7K range, or even Victor Perez give you a much not better floor, but higher ceiling. Like Rico Hoy, he is just an absolute striper. He gains on approach, he gains off the tee, and he just hits a heavy ball. He's now gained strokes putting in two straight. If you know anything about Rico Hori, he's a horrendous putter. But across the summer, starting at the U.S. Open, he went on a run of 5 straight weeks in which he gained strokes putting. So now he's done it in 2 straight weeks. Maybe he found something on the greens and it's like something's clicking in his head and he's putting well again. So if we're in the middle of a Rico Hori putting run, definitely get on that. And then Chan Kim. Chan Kim has been a little bit up and down of late, but at the core, he's a very solid and plus ball striker who sometimes sucks on the greens, but I'm definitely down. He's played this golf course twice, and he's finished T15 and T41. So I like that. I like that he's had course history and he's played a lot this fall. So middle of the 7K range are kind of my favorite golfers here with Hori, Chan Kim, and Victor Perez. Victor Perez has played across the pond recently. He played at the Andalusia Masters, French Open, Spanish Open, and the BMW PGA. 4 made cuts, no real crazy results, but he gained 5.4 strokes on approach at the Andalusia Masters, which was his best approach week that was his best approach week since the Nedbank Challenge in November of 2023. So you're getting some good form with a golfer like Victor Perez, who's not scared to finish inside the top 5. Bottom of the 7K range, Ryo Hisatsune, I see is a little popular. I'd definitely pivot off of him and go to a golfer like Ben Silverman, Adam Svensson, or even Kevin Yu, golfers who have very similar style of profile and are probably less ownership. And down below, I don't mind at 7K, Brendan Todd, because Brendan Todd, if you know anything about Brendan Todd, he likes to play golf courses that he knows he has a chance on. I will say, what we saw from him last week at Summerlin was not good because Summerlin is a course that should suit his game. He lost strokes on approach. But if Brendan Todd can be even on approach, I trust him to gain 4 to 5 putting, and that could lead to an easy T12, which would be great at 7K. So that's a 7K range. I'm not going to go too deep into the 6K range because I'm going to do a separate show on the 6K range and give you 5 to 6 golfers, maybe find some unknown Japanese golfers at the bottom of this range. But I wouldn't mind going to Nico Echeverria. Nico Echeverria was striping the ball out the gates, but he ended up missing the cut at the Shriners. I will say that was due to the weather. Nico Echeverria is coming off of the best approach week of his career at the Black Desert Resort, and he was hitting it fine before the wind really picked up. So he's definitely my favorite play in this 6K range at $6,400. So that's the preview. I will be back soon with the 6K show and the bet show either tonight or early tomorrow. But any questions, you know where to find me, and I'll catch you guys soon. Some interesting news coming also. So if you're a golf gambling podcast supporter, I hope you enjoy talking to me. And if I can do anything to improve, I love the feedback. So help me help you. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.